Hi, I'm Dr. Liz Lageson, and I'm the developer of the Peers Intervention and the director of the UCLA Peers Clinic. And you are now in episode 5 of the Peers Virtual Bootcamp. So, welcome back. So, this episode focuses on starting individual conversations. And one of the things we've discovered in many years of doing research on social skills is that really well intentioned people often give really bad advice when it comes to social situations. And this is one of the times where this happens quite often. So, what do you think most people are told to do to meet new people? Think about that. Imagine you're going to some party or social gathering, you don't really know anyone. What would most people tell you to do to meet new people? Well, they'd probably tell you to either go up and say hi or go up and introduce yourself. And that's what we hear time and time again when we ask teens and adults that question. They're told to go say hi or go introduce themselves. But have you ever thought about what that would look like? Imagine that I just walk up to you randomly at some party and say, "Hi, I'm Liz," right? What would you think of me? You'd think I'm weird. You think I'm odd. That's a strange thing to do. That's actually not how people start conversations with other people. So, again, we're going to focus on teaching the ecologically valid strategies for starting individual conversations. Before we get to those strategies, the first thing we have to actually think about is how can you assess interest in a conversation, because that's going to be one of the steps, is actually assessing whether or not this person wants to talk to us or not. Now, most people, when you ask them how can you tell if somebody wants to talk to you, they'll say that it's a feeling that you get. And okay, maybe it's a feeling that you get, but there are concrete behaviors that are giving you that feeling, right? So what would they be doing with their eyes if they want to talk to you? They'd be looking at you. What would they be doing with their body if they wanted to talk to you? They'd be facing you, not giving you the cold shoulder, turning away. And they would actually be talking to you and not giving rude remarks or short replies. These are the three behavioral signs that tell us if someone wants to talk to us. Just simply ask yourself, are they looking at me? Are they facing me? Are they talking to me? Now, the other thing that we have to think about before we get to the steps for starting an individual conversation with someone is getting back into the concepts of peer rejected versus socially neglected people. It's always helpful to begin with thinking about what might be some common social errors that might occur in these situations. Now, remember very quickly, peer rejected folks are the ones that are actively seeking out their peers, but they're getting pushed away. They're often intrusive in conversations. They often dominate conversations. They tend to have more externalizing sort of issues. And then the socially neglected are the ones who aren't really actively seeking out their peers. They're often seen as shy or timid, sort of withdrawn. So, what might be a common social error that maybe a peer rejected person might make in starting an individual conversation with someone? Well, they might just walk up and start randomly talking to the person, right? And what might they talk about? Maybe whatever they want to talk about, but often with very little regard for whether or not it's interesting to the person that they're talking to. They also might just walk up and say hi and introduce themselves because that's what they've been told to do. Now, what about those socially neglected folks? What might they do to start an individual conversation with someone? Maybe nothing. They might not even try. They might want people to come up and talk to them, but the other thing is that they're often not giving out body language that shows that they're interested in talking to others. Their body language might not be very inviting. Think about where they're often looking. It's usually kind of down at the ground or at the floor at their feet, and it's not very inviting to other people. So they often go unnoticed. So in this role play I'm about to show you, you're going to see Alina again doing something wrong. And I want you to watch this role play and think about what Alina is doing wrong in beginning an individual conversation.
Hey, do you ever go roller skating?
What?
Do you go roller skating?
No.
Why not? You should go.
Okay.
It's really fun. I go like every weekend.
Sweet.
There's this new skate park that just opened up.
I'm trying to watch something right now, so.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, it's really fun. They have like a student night every Thursday.
Cool.
You should definitely go.
Okay.
Okay, so what did Alina do wrong there? Well, she just randomly walked up to Jordan and started talking about roller skating. And there was no context for talking about roller skating. It wasn't like they were in a roller skating rink, right? It wasn't like Jordan was wearing roller skates or carrying around roller skates. It was pretty random. So we have to do some perspective taking around this. What do you think that was like for Jordan? Kind of awkward, sort of confusing, sort of random, right? What did she think of Alina? She's weird. She's odd. She's strange. She's kind of annoying. Would she want to talk to her again? Probably not. So this is definitely more an example of what a peer rejected person might do to start an individual conversation. So rather than doing that, what we want to do is teach the ecologically valid strategy for starting an individual conversation. And this is what socially successful people sort of naturally do to start conversations with people they either don't know or maybe just kind of know so. So the first step is that you kind of casually look over at the person and you don't want to stare at them like a creepy stalker. So you're usually using a prop like a phone or maybe some reading material, something that sort of makes sense. You need to look distracted by something. Me staring at my cup of tea, it's a prop, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But me looking at my phone, that kind of does make sense. So we're using a prop, we're looking distracted, but we're casually looking over at the other person. Now, what we're trying to do as we're casually looking over is trying to find a common interest. So in that example, we saw Jordan on her phone. It was an iPhone, and she was watching a music video. So what could be some possible common interests? Maybe the phone, maybe the music video, maybe the app that she was watching the music video on. All of these things could be potential common interests. After you've found a common interest, you're going to want to mention the common interest. And we typically do this in one of three ways. We could either make a comment, ask a question, or give a compliment. So what would be a possible comment that Alina could make? Oh, that's the new such and such video, right? What could be a question that Alina could ask? Is that the new such and such video? Right? What could be a compliment? Oh, I love that song, right? So you're going to mention the common interest. Then we need to, of course, trade information. You're not just going to talk at the person, right? We need to follow all of those rules that we established for trading information and having good conversational skills. You want to ask the person questions. You want to answer your own question to keep it going back and forth. You'll be asking follow-up questions and open-ended questions and all of the rules, again, that we established for trading information. From there, you also have to be assessing the person's interest. And how can you tell if the person wants to talk to you? This is a pop quiz, right? What were the 3 behavioral signs that tell you if somebody wants to talk to you? What are they doing with their eyes? They're looking at you. What are they doing with their body? They're facing you and they're actually talking to you. And then if things have been going well, it seems like they want to talk to you, then you can introduce yourself. And the introductions, by the way, they're optional. You don't have to introduce yourself. But if there are going to be introductions, they come later. And how do you introduce yourself? Oh, by the way, I'm Liz. Or I don't think we've met before. I'm Liz. But again, these introductions are optional and they do come later, not at the beginning. So now watch this role play and think about what Alina is doing right this time in starting an individual conversation.
Oh my God, I love that song.
Yeah, me too. This is the new video that just came out today.
No way, I'm dying to see that.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen her in concert?
I have. I actually have tickets for her upcoming concert.
No way, the one that's coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be so great.
That's so cool.
Have you ever seen her perform?
No, I wish. I really want to.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing in concert. You need to see her.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. By the way, I'm Alina.
I'm Jordan.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so what did Alina do right in that conversation? Well, she casually looked over at Jordan, right? She was using a prop. She was putting that book away. She found a common interest, which was the music video. She mentioned the common interest. She traded information back and forth. Did it seem like Jordan wanted to talk to Alina? Yeah. How could you tell? Well, she was looking at her. She was facing her, and she was talking to her. And then what did she do? She introduced herself. But again, the introduction came at the end. So what was that like for Jordan this time? It was nice. It was comfortable, pleasant. Right? What does she think of Alina? She's nice, she's friendly. Would you want to talk to her again? Probably. This is how we meet new people, is by starting individual conversations, not by going up and saying hi or introducing ourselves. Now, this is what we do in person, but if you happen to be using these steps online, it's modified slightly. So people sometimes meet in online chat rooms or in different places online, and the steps are similar but slightly different. You still casually look over, but there's no prop this time. You're still trying to find a common interest, though, and you're still going to mention the common interest. You still have to trade information. You still have to assess their interest, although their interest is a little different. They wouldn't necessarily be facing you, right? They're just facing the camera. They would be talking to you and sort of looking at you. And then if things are going well, you can introduce yourselves. Now, what we'd like you to do next, of course, is to practice this. So maybe take the opportunity to practice with your social coach by following these steps, casually looking over, find a prop to use. I always recommend a phone. Find a common interest, maybe even decide what the common interest is before you practice. Then you're going to mention the common interest. You'll trade information, you'll assess their interest, and let's definitely make sure our social coaches are actually expressing interest here, and then you can practice introducing yourself. So it's fine if you want to go ahead and pause the video. The steps will be on the screen. It's not a pop quiz. You don't have to try to memorize these steps. I always recommend just keeping the steps on the screen and being able to look at them while you're practicing. We'll set you up for success. All right, after you finish that, feel free to join us and we'll talk about where to go from here. So hopefully you practiced the steps for starting an individual conversation. That is a wrap for this episode of the Peers Virtual Bootcamp, but we are not done yet. The next episode that we're going to recommend that you watch is episode 6, which is on entering group conversations. So how do we get into conversations that are already happening rather than just starting a conversation? In the meantime, again, if you want more information about this skill or any of the skills we've been talking about in the boot camp, you're more than welcome to take a look at the Science of Making Friends. There's lots of information about these skills in much greater detail. Of course, we also have our in-person boot camps at UCLA that happen at least 4 times a year on various topics like dating and friendship, handling teasing and bullying, as well as on conversational skills. We also have our clinical programs at UCLA, and we also have programs outside of UCLA. If you go to our UCLA Peers Clinic website, you can find a peers certified provider, perhaps in your area. But we do have these 16-week programs that meet once a week for 90 minutes. They are parent or caregiver assisted for teens and adults. Additionally, at UCLA, we have our telehealth groups. Those also meet weekly for 90 minutes once a week for 16 weeks. And of course, those role play videos that you just saw with Alina and our cast of characters are all available to anyone publicly on our Peers Clinic website and on the Rutledge website. So once again, we look forward to seeing you in episode 6 of the Peers Virtual Bootcamp, which will focus on entering group conversations. But in the meantime, if you'd like more information about these skills and any others, feel free to visit our website or our social media. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.